Raj Patel, we've had this controversy in the presidential race, the stepping down of the head of Burson Marsteller from the campaign, Mark Penn, from the campaign of Hillary Clinton, because he met with the Colombian ambassador. They have retained his lobbying company to lobby on behalf of so-called free trade agreement between Colombia and the United States. Bush is giving that agreement to Congress to pass on. What about the so-called free trade and how it affects food prices around the world?
Well, I mean, one of the reasons that you're seeing food price riots right now is because all the countries that you listed, from Haiti to Senegal to Burkina Faso to India, they are largely hitched to an international economy where they have to import grain in order to be able to consume it. And this is a consequence of the U.S. pushing a so-called free trade agenda, where countries are being forced to lower their tariff barriers to stop protecting farmers. And as a result, what you're seeing is that the countries that are worst affected by this are the ones that have most enthusiastically been forced to embrace free trade. The countries that are doing that are not suffering quite as badly are countries that have a lot of support for agriculture. I mean, the support is distorted, particularly in the US and the European Union. But even in China or Japan or South Korea, rice, for example, in South Korea and Japan is treated as a cultural good. The Japanese and South Korean governments fought very hard to exempt food from the strictures of free trade. So absolutely, free trade has a great deal of responsibility to bear here, because countries have been forced into using free trade. And of course, when the price of food goes up globally, countries have no reserves, they have no policies, they have no recourse if they're being forced to be part of the free trade system. So yes, I think that it has a great deal of responsibility.
Farmer suicides, what have you found?
Across the world, but particularly in India, you see a situation where farmers farmers, like everyone else, want to improve their lot, and so they borrow money to be able to invest in their land, and increasingly those investments don't pan out, whether it's climate change or whether it's a medical expense that they have to pay. And all of a sudden, farmers find themselves on the brink of foreclosure, or bankruptcy, and they become the first people in generations in their family to lose their land. And rather than suffer that indignity, farmers in India, for example, have been poisoning themselves with pesticides. That was one of the hardest parts of researching this book, is talking to families where farmers did kill themselves. And of course, it's an epidemic that started in the States, in the Midwest, in the 1980s, when there was a flourishing of farmer suicides. That's perhaps not the right word, but there was certainly an epidemic of them. And those suicides follow the rise of debt for farmers. They particularly affect small farmers who have been family farmers who have been on their land for generations. And in the new modern agricultural economy, those farmers are the most vulnerable, whether they're in India or the States or in Britain.
Raj Patel, in the last 30 seconds, and then we'll bring our listeners and viewers part 2 of this conversation. But in our last 30 seconds, how devastating are the hike in food prices for those living on the edge?
I mean, they're absolutely devastating. It's important to remember, of course, that living on the edge is also devastating. But what we have now is a situation where food prices are really just toppling people into straightforward hunger and famine. I mean, in Haiti, people are eating mud cakes in order to keep hunger pangs at bay. Things are pretty dire.
I want to thank you for being with us. We'll bring part 2 of this conversation to our listeners and viewers within the next few days. Raj Patel is our guest. His new book is Stuffed and Starved, The Hidden Battle for the World Food System. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Burke, Shrifa Belkadous, Aaron Mate, Anjali Kamet, Jeffrey Hagerman, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Hani Massoud, Robbie Karen, Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, Peter Curry is our engineers. We begin our 12th anniversary Democracy Now! Tour in New Orleans on Thursday night, 7 o'clock, we'll be at the Barnes & Noble in Metairie. On Friday in New Orleans at the Superdome. Sunday, Seattle. Monday, Portland, Oregon. Tuesday, we'll be in Oakland. On Wednesday in Sebastopol. On Thursday in Houston. On Friday in Albuquerque, then Santa Fe. Then we'll make our way through Colorado to Denver and Boulder. Check our website, tour.democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining.